Hello, my name is Grant Donnelly, and I'm excited to share with you a field study on boosting the impact of sugary drink excise taxes. This is done in collaboration with Paige Googe, Ryan Howell, and Leslie John. So a sugar-sweetened beverage is any beverage with added sugars, so most commonly you can think of them as sodas, so full-calorie Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Diet beverages like Diet Coca-Cola would not be considered a sugary beverage as they have added sweeteners. In recent years, there's been a trend towards the regulation of the purchasing and consumption of these beverages, in part because sugar-sweetened beverages are relatively unhealthy. They're highly caloric, they offer little in the way of nutritional value, and people drink a lot of them. So there's been a lot of effort to regulate these beverages in three general categories. The first being choice architecture. Most commonly, you can understand a common example is that of New York City, where they tried to regulate what a large size could be in any retailer. So most fast food restaurants sell larges upwards to 64 ounces, and so the policy would look to restrict any large size to be 16 ounces. And so in some research I've done with my colleagues, we find that such a policy would be a viable option to kind of reduce the purchasing and consumption of these beverages. Another strategy would be information provision. So most common here would be the Affordable Care Act, which has regulated calorie labeling on sugar-sweetened beverages. However, there's mixed evidence as to whether calorie labeling actually reduces the purchasing of calories. And the last, which I'll be talking today, is incentives, or rather disincentives, which have been most commonly sugar-sweetened beverage taxes. So in 2015, Berkeley, California was the first city to institute a 1 cent per ounce tax. Since then, there's been a number of cities that have kind of followed suit and passed similar taxes as well. In recent years, though, these taxes have become difficult to pass, and in part, one way to do so is to make the proceeds of the tax to be earmarked to more charitable funds. So Philadelphia most recently passed a sugary beverage tax where the tax was earmarked to benefiting pre-K education. So here we're interested to understand if on shelf tags, if it was labeled that the price included a sugary beverage tax, would that reduce purchasing? And would there be any added effect of disclosing that there was a charitable recipient that received those funds? So to intervene, we went to San Francisco State University. San Francisco passed a sugary beverage tax in 2018, and we intervened in two of their shops in which students shopped very frequently. Our primary outcome was the proportion of bottled drinks that were sold that were sugary. And the tax was implemented on January 1st of 2018, and the study took place in the fall semester of that year from September to November, so the sugary beverage tax was well into effect at that time. Most people were aware of the tax because of media, and there was signage that was posted in the field locations throughout the duration of the study. We had three arms: a price salient arm that simply listed the price, a tax salient arm that further said that the price included a sugary drink tax, and a tax and recipient salient arm, which further demonstrated that there would be a recipient of the tax money that was generated. Our study timeline looked like so. We had a 2-week baseline period followed by the 2-week price salience condition, and then the 2-week tax salient condition, a 1-week washout, and then finally the 2-week tax and recipient salience condition, and finally a 1-week washout at the end. And the number of beverages that were sold across weeks did not differ. What we see is that there's a significant decrease in the amount of sugary beverages that are purchased under the tax salient condition. There's no further benefit of disclosing the recipient. We see very similar effects when we look at the number of calories that were sold. This holds also when we look at historical sales data and we control for heat and humidity index. When you look at our washout periods, what you can see is that when this information is taken off of the shelf tags, the proportion of these beverages continues to go up. And then we were also interested to know, what do people buy when the tax is salient? Well, it turns out people are drawn to purchasing more water. So in sum, the firm did not experience a decrease in sales when we labeled these beverages. They'd simply customers moved their purchasing to more healthier options. And so in some follow-up studies, we look at to understand why. It turns out that people infer that the tax is much larger than it is, that it's much larger than 1 cent per ounce, which kind of predicts their aversion towards the tax. So in signages that we use that actually disclose the small amount of the tax, the tax labeling becomes somewhat less effective. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name is Grant Donnelly, and my email is donnelly.177@osu.edu.